Manila has the finest bay in the Far East, large enough to accommodate all the fleets of the world. We shall dock at Pier 7, a new double-decked concrete structure 1,000 feet long, built and maintained by the Philippine government. Awaiting us is the famous 80-piece Philippine Constabulary Band.
When you think of the Philippines, you'd imagine a beautiful country with relaxing tropical islands. But where does the name even come from? Well, it's rooted in Spain's colonial history. The country was named after King Philip II of Spain. That's right, the Philippines comes from Philip. But here's the thing, even before the Spaniards came and gave these islands a new name, this land was already home to thriving communities, intricate societies, and a rich tapestry of cultures and religions. So, what was life like back then on these islands, you ask? Who were the people? And how did they live? In this video, we're going to uncover the fascinating history of the Philippines before Spanish colonization. As we go through, some questions might pop up in your mind. Stick around because the answers may surprise you, and if you don't find what you're looking for, you can leave a comment and we'd so appreciate the contribution. To start at the very beginning, let's talk about who lived in the Philippines long before it became a bustling trade hub. The earliest trace of human life on these islands dates back to a jaw-dropping 700,000 years ago. Did you know? Early humans like Homo erectus roamed the land back then, long before modern humans, Homo sapiens, arrived. Fossils of Homo luzonensis, a species discovered recently, suggest a complex prehistoric human presence on Luzon as far back as 134,000 years ago, and by around 47,000 years ago, Homo sapiens, the modern human species, began to arrive. But these weren't the ancestors of today's Filipinos. Fast forward a bit. Around 3000 BC, a group of people called the Austronesians migrated from Taiwan. These Austronesians were said to be the real ancestors of modern Filipinos, and their arrival set the stage for the development of the rich cultures that spread across the archipelago. As we were told, the Austronesians brought with them more than just their seafaring skills. They carried culture, language, and new ways of living. They were expert navigators, which helped them settle not only in the Philippines but across maritime Southeast Asia, reaching as far as Madagascar in the west and Polynesia in the east. Their languages were the ancestors of Tagalog, Cebuano, and other modern Filipino languages. Once they settled in the Philippines, the Austronesians formed small communities along rivers and coastlines. These communities didn't unite into a single kingdom or empire. They were interconnected through kinship, marriage, and trade. They also thrived in the island's lush, tropical environment. The mountainous terrain, rivers, and fertile land provided food, while the surrounding seas made it easy to travel and trade with neighboring islands. Despite their geographic separation, these early communities maintained a shared culture, including animist beliefs. They believed that spirits inhabited everything: animals, rocks, trees. Spiritual leaders often communicated with these spirits, and these rituals and beliefs formed a major part of daily life. On the contrary to what you might imagine, ancient Filipinos weren't living in isolation. By around 2000 BC, the Philippines became part of a massive trade network known as the Maritime Jade Road, a system that connected islands and mainland regions in Southeast Asia. Jade artifacts discovered in the Philippines showed how deeply connected these islands were to the broader world. From their shores, precious jade, tools, and other goods were exported across Southeast Asia and beyond. Trade didn't just involve goods. Through these exchanges, new ideas and customs flowed into the Philippines. For instance, techniques for working with metal arrived from India, leading to the production of tools and ornaments that fueled further trade. It was clear back then that these islands were more than just remote outposts. They were crossroads where cultures, ideas, and commerce were all in line. By 1000 CE, trade networks connected the Philippines with places as far away as China, Champa, now Vietnam, and India, influencing the island's social and political structures. Around the 10th century CE, Filipino societies became more organized, with the emergence of the barangay system. The barangay was a small, independent community or village, and it often consisted of about 30 to 100 families. These barangays were self-governing and led by a datu, who acted as the local ruler. Some barangays grew larger, and a few even banded together to form confederacies. But there was no single ruler who united all of the islands. One of the earliest pieces of written evidence of this period is the Laguna copperplate inscription from around 900 CE. It's a simple document about the forgiveness of a debt, but it tells us that people in the Philippines had already developed systems of governance, trade, and communication. This document shows that by this time, the islands had strong ties to neighboring regions like Indonesia and India. The barangays themselves were complex. At the top of the social structure were the majanu, or the noble class. Below them were the maharlika, freemen, and the alipin, the enslaved. The social structure was rigid, but in some cases, people could change their status through marriage or acts of bravery. The early barangays weren't just political units, they were the backbone of Filipino society and economy. Even before the Spanish brought Christianity to the islands, the Philippines had its own set of beliefs and religious practices. At the heart of this early spirituality was animism, like we said earlier. The belief that everything in nature had a spirit, even a mountain. Early Filipinos also practiced ancestral worship, believing that the spirits of their ancestors could influence the world of the living, often manifesting in animals or nature. These beliefs were intertwined with magic and the supernatural. Shamans and spiritual leaders held special power in their communities. These leaders, sometimes called bebelan, were highly respected for their ability to communicate with spirits, heal the sick, and usher important religious ceremonies. By the 9th century CE, as trade flourished, new ideas about religion began filtering into the Philippines from India and Indonesia. The Sriwijaya Empire, a powerful Indonesian kingdom, had a significant influence on the southern Philippines. Hinduism and Buddhism arrived, along with traders and missionaries, slowly blending with local animist beliefs. This blending of belief systems showed just how open and adaptable Filipino societies were, incorporating new ideas into their existing traditions without abandoning their core practices. In the 14th century, Islam arrived in the Philippines through the southern islands, specifically the Sulu archipelago. Muslim traders from Indonesia, particularly a missionary named Makdum Karim, began spreading Islam in 1380. He's credited with building the first mosque in the Philippines, marking the start of a new chapter in the island's religious history. Islam didn't spread overnight, but by the 15th century, it had taken hold in parts of the southern Philippines. A century later, the Sultanate of Sulu was established, and Islam became the dominant religion in the region. The arrival of Islam didn't erase the local cultures and beliefs but added yet another layer to the complex spiritual landscape of the islands. While the northern and central islands continued to be organized into barangays, the southern islands saw the rise of larger political entities like the Sultanate of Sulu. In the early 15th century, the Sultanate of Sulu became a significant power in the region, thriving on trade with nearby Southeast Asian kingdoms like Champa and Indonesia. This period saw more militarized cultures, particularly in the Luzon area. The people of Tondo, the oldest documented barangay, were known for their involvement in trade across Southeast Asia. Their proximity to Manila Bay made them strategically important, and over time, they became rivals with other regional powers, including the Bruneian Sultanate. The Philippines, far from being a land of isolated villages, was part of a larger network of Asian maritime powers that included China, Champa, and Indonesia. These connections would later influence how the islands would respond to European colonization, and so by the time the Spaniards arrived in the 16th century, the Philippines was already a land of diversity, home to different religions, languages, and political systems. Communities were thriving, some in small, tightly knit barangays, others in larger, more complex sultanates. Trade routes were well established, connecting these islands to the rest of the world. But what would happen next would change the course of the islands forever. The arrival of Europeans would bring new challenges, as the Philippines became a focal point in Spain's colonial ambitions. But all that is a story for another day. If you enjoyed this video, please don't forget to show support by hitting the like button, and also the notification bell so you'd get notified on our new contents. Until next time, thanks for watching.